I hate having to restart. Having to restart the road software every time is very annoying. And what's even more annoying is the fact that my gain settings keep resetting on the actual thing. So now they should be like, yeah, that's so weird, man. Alrighty. Let me just make sure, yeah, audio input capture should be good. So weird. Alrighty, anyway, let me know how the audio is like for those in the chat. Make sure that the music's not too low, you turn it up a little bit. Hopefully everything's balanced. So today we're kind of refactoring some code. It's not gonna, it'll be like we were doing yesterday where we were kind of just working on optimizations of things, working on debugging library, working on like kind of like ways of kind of build the project up into like building blocks and doing some optimizations. So today we're originally had a project. So this is what I call the FPS project, and the FPS project takes the code from the main game without any of the AI, without any of the. It's just first-person controller, kind of isolated. So there's a lot of its cross dependencies, but it should be a lot easier. Let me just organize my mixer here, see if I can turn off some of this stuff. Can I just turn off some of those? I don't need teleport in here twice. I don't know why that's coming in. Okay, that should just be the music coming in. I'm gonna remove Audacious as a capture source. Let me just add a filter to our own. There we go, just to get rid of some of the background when I'm not talking. Okay, so we're applying the settings numerous times here when we load. So what we're doing is we're just kind of going through the player controller, cleaning it up. Just the player controller itself. We want to get the EVA animations, crouch. This is just the test world for the character controller itself. So it's just a way of kind of working with just kind of the first person experience, seeing what players, weapons, any lag we're experiencing, kind of testing FPS itself and seeing kind of like what we want to do with it for polish. And when the new Godot 4.6 comes out, we're going to be redoing the IK system, and I think we're going to redo it here in this more sample project, where it's a little bit easier to experiment with.
They do it as a ritual?
Yeah, it did fly. Why is this happening twice? Yeah, only when we load do we apply this. Loads twice. The game manager tells the settings to load. It loads, I'm ready anyway. Which is fine. Yeah. If it's ready, it should load. Right. But yeah, so this is actually working. It was just applying itself twice. They do the same thing here. Yeah, this load doesn't need to happen if the settings manager loads already. I'll be right back. I use the washroom. Be right back. Hey, David, how's it going? How you doing, dude? Yo, you want to make you want me to make music for you using Suno? Suno is all good. Don't worry. There's stuff I'm looking for, dude. It's hard to create. I want this type of music that you're listening to. It's called psychedelic space rock, and it's been very difficult. I picked up some plugins though. We're gonna try to make it ourselves at some point. That's gonna be the goal. All cameras should be following the same settings. We need to kind of make the setting system a little bit better at some point. We mentioned you in Winsand's virtual radio since you're the person that made it. Nice. I was going to do Epidemic Sound, as you know, but welcome. Even that I pay them, I have a contract with them. We mentioned you in Winsand's radio. Cool. Yeah, I got access to tokens for both, but I'm not really sure, about the AI music thing. I don't know if it can create what I'm really looking for. I'm not getting the right vibe, You can. Because I find it hard to get the good artists. When I get this down to having literally nothing, like no errors. Or a way to like log silent and review it in the engine. is the lag UI is part of the debug UI. Or let's steal the code. I'm gonna make an improvement to it. But it's in the corner. Not the overlay. Yeah, the position's fine here. Bottom right. Saved. And here, I guess this was reset because the layout is set to not be full right. No, shouldn't matter. This should reset to the corner. Weird. Because that's what it is. I know why it's like positioned by default, even though here, where we saved it, we've literally said bottom right. That is what we're doing. Okay, like this sub scene is saved with the anchor. Yeah, we want to do some optional stuff. We want to kind of not print it. Oh, we need a log type, but it's going to be very weird. We need to do some like log enumerators. We can have a default log type. No debug and hide debug. This is the world environment. Isn't there already a world environment defined? We have one. I don't see the overridden one. What is this used for? Oh, it's because we're creating a new one. Oh, I need to know the collision layers of the actual gravity area. The station gravity area. Replaced by one linear, which is all good. So station gravity area. This should be on 18. Isn't there another one for layer 15? Two, three. So the base gravity area doesn't do anything. Yeah, I guess they're not. I guess they don't. So the station gravity area. What was that? Oh, Jesus thing. Oh, we're using the indicator position. We're back. Thing's way too big. It doesn't show them in any gravity areas. Right, so it is being set and cleared. Weird. Station or ship or no? Oh wait. Does it need the station? Yeah, it's a station type gravity area. Yeah, most of the time, I should get the word that the most high, the God is home. Yeah, the priority went to the station, so it should be set. So why are we not? Well, those are animations not thinking. Character model gray box. Yeah. Okay. And then the idea of a player camera scene. Refab's Canvas Fire Camera is correct. Oh, it's cameras. Okay, that's good. What is this animation tree broke? You have an animation player? Still broke, eh? Yeah, they're all working here. Well, they're all off. Yeah, the EVA animations work. Happened before. Yeah, it's either EVA works and movement doesn't work, or it's the other way around. Yeah, the EVA animations need a different route. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why these don't just do this. What are these over again? Yeah, let's not do this. Limbs, what layer does need a star? Okay. Just in space. No, not too. Oregon Space Code Adventures 8, Panic, how's it going? We're breaking off the main repo into a very small, kind of like sub project. It's going to be its own little repo, but I didn't want to do a branch for this. I wanted to take the first person experience and isolate it into its own first person controller. Been lurking for an hour, nice. So I want to kind of like give myself a playground for just the FPS systems. And we're doing this because see this little jitter that's happening here? This is a kind of a desync that's happening with the head, the bobble stabilizer, when the head is being aligned to the head bone of the character, and the physics interpolation. So it's not quite like the IK is just a little bit jank. Need to reload, stream is laggy, I think that's because I'm on another tab. Okay, no worries. Let me know when you're back. Much better? Okay, cool. So like, if you see what I mean here, see the lag in the gun? Right, so when 4.6 comes out, a lot of that'll be fixed. But what I want to do is kind of work, I can port this to the beta version of 4.6 now, and kind of play around with some of the systems. So like everything in this project, there's some basic ship stuff ported over, but most of this will be kind of first-person experience. That's what I want to kind of focus on for the right, because it'll also be like first-person experience for everything, like the UI, elements, missions, what we like, what we don't like, you know, simple little build. Like crouch doesn't work, I have no idea why. Yeah, so it's little things like that. And if you haven't been around a bit, I have all the so there's kind of like 3 things that I'm working on right now. I wanted to kind of do the boots on the ground FPS, and then I have this one called a universe. And in the universe, we're building up all the tooling we need to test some different graphic things, like different bounds of the different ships, like their space. So like very poor example, but so we have different types of spline visualizations. Right, so we have a visualization for, turn off the line, multi-lines here. So we have high performance visualizations of flight paths and connected nodes. That's super performant. Points, and then what I'm working on is like for debug radius, right? So if we want to visualize radiuses, you can just kind of make, a system that has a, just a generic, no matter what way we look at it, radius. So when we're clicking a ship, we want to see what the range is going to be around the ship, and then we can also on-billboard it, so we can kind of get an idea. So if it's not billboarded, it'll be in kind of along the plane. So say we just want to do a sensors test. You want to see what the sensors range is of the ship in relative to the ship. Okay, so just debug tools. This new one here that I'm working on is for the curves. Right, and there's 4 curves. We have these different control nodes. Right, because the idea is the end of each curve should actually be, so A1 and B1 are perfectly straight lines. That if we change the position, see how the curve is, reacting to it. Right, so for flight path visualization, in runtime, it's all runtime. I'm getting all this ready to do some very, comprehensive testing. Then we go back to the space scene. Right, so we have our NPCs flying along doing their thing. And, what they need to do is they need to be able to kind of fly a flight plan. Right, kind of keep their momentum. Not be distracted by me. So it brings them out 64 meters, so they can do a nice approach alignment, come in to their hangar, and be disabled. And now, depending on what their next flight plan is, they get a kind of a departure path. Right, so whatever, their boat kind of heading towards this way, so it's bringing them to the same point. But we need this curve to be, a lot more, angled towards the direction they're going to be headed. They don't need to they don't really need to head towards, we'd have to make the arc be angled directly towards it. It's really whenever the arc ends up pointing towards it. Oh, okay, you lurk. Awesome. So when I started working on this, I was like, okay, well, I'd like to build more of the ship stuff into this, maybe the follow camera, because we never had a follow camera, and it might be nice to kind of add a follow camera that we can attach to the ship, and similar to a third-person player camera. Very useful for debugging. So this little project will kind of get fleshed out with Unforgiven space assets, almost like an Everspace clone, if that makes sense. It's not going to be, I'm not going to make it first person, because it's only meant to really be more of a free cam for me to kind of fly around and test how the AI is performing in a very isolated form. It's just, we need these little test projects that kind of isolate, certain things, make them perform well. So they allow me to kind of experiment. Anything that's a success, we'll push it into the main project. Anything that's a failure, well, we won't. Sometimes I think we just need the isolation. Say this kickback, the problem is we need to actually generate 2 curves. It's trying to do one Bezier curve, and that's not what I want. That's why the debug testing exists. Because we really want to, I think here in Notepad I had an MS Paint yesterday or whenever I was last streaming. I don't have it here now. Alright, but we have the 2 points that we know are going to be perfect. We want them to be straight, and then we want to join them with a Bezier. So the flight path itself will become multiple Beziers. Right, because you want to this is kind of the problem, or what I'm trying to solve. So we know we have hangar. right? So we know we have hangar. We know like if blue is the direction the hangar is facing, like we'll think of it from above, like hangar is facing this way, right? Then we know our departure path and arrival path is going to be always, we just make an assumption, right? That we need to go, 64 meters to clear the hangar, right? And then from this clearance point, because originally we were kind of like we got to bring them out really. Then we need to know like where are they actually going to? Like what direction are they truly going? Are they going, like towards another station at this point? But do it here, like what was happening before. It was kind of doing it early, like preemptively knowing, well, we're going this way, but we need to bring you this way, so we get this weird, kind of a Bezier curve that's kind of doing this weird funky stuff. But instead, we want to this is going to be our straight angle, right? And then we want to, use, the sample length of that. So this point, right? And this point are always going to be the thing, right? And then we pick, the other two like destination points, and then, we kind of draw the perfect curve, right? That kind of connects them both together. And it shouldn't matter what direction, if it's up or down. The idea is once we've calculated this line, we really just want to kind of do a natural curve across these two, this perfect angle. So we want to kind of create, whatever the adjacent line is, right, and then create our parable, right? Because this will be our final like departure flight path, direction, right? So the goal is just to get them, away from the station, and then moving. So that's what we started doing the other day. Is how do we create a bounds? So this is an object that has a unique scale, and we can change that scale. So like here, if I increase, the scale of this thing, make it even wider, it doesn't really matter what the scale is. It should just visualize, right? So it should create the AABB to match it, which it is, right? So the green or the red here is our, right, is that kind of bound. And our goal is like once we create this bound, right, this area that matches it, we want to use this to make sure if we calculate a bunch of random dots, which is like, if we sample a bunch of dots and we visualize them, we want to just, we want to create a bunch of random dots, and we want to sample the dot that's the closest to the, kind of like the dot that's closest to the hangar, that matches the orientation of the departure approach. And then it might be like, a probably better way of doing that, but that's that's my plan. Because if we have a weird scenario of the hangar, right, if our ultimate destination, right, ends up like, we leave the hangar, but we got to go this way, that this is the problem that I worry about. Like, this is where we need to go. Then we leave, and then we come and smash through the whole thing. So we have to pretty much like assume that that the station has some virtual bounds, and that once we clear that bounds, right, so wherever that first intersection point is, we know we need to get over here. Like, we know where our destination is. Then we need to create like a a system that brings it around the exactly, yeah. So we have to create a curve, but we have to create a curve whose points never, intersect with the the station. So it's the creation of these dynamic flight paths. Yeah, so my thought process is looking from above, if that were the case, and over here was where we needed to go. Whatever the angle is, like, you know, if it turns out that this angle is going to penetrate, you know, the station, then we really just need to pick a side. So pick a direction, whether it's top or bottom, or left or right. It doesn't really matter at this point. And then we're kind of creating a curve by kind of, you know, we already know like where we are, so we kind of like, you know, move so that we've cleared the bounds again, right? And we always add a certain like padding. So whatever the bounds is, it's like, you know, there's like a magical take the bounds into consideration and extend the bounds by whatever our true distance is. So like this would be like, you know, technically like this is the safe point. We're going to move out a little bit, and we just pretty much continue until, you know, we're in the clear towards the approach. Same thing again, like kind of going along the bounds, you know, until we're in the clear again. And then if the direction is final, you know, if we can finally reach, because we can make it very simple, you know, like mathematical. And so then the final approach happens, and then all of these become, you know, our little control nodes, right, for our spline. And then our spline itself ends up kind of looking more like, you know, this. Hey, how's it going? Right, so that's kind of the dealio. Hey, Nerdful. Rather, I done goofed. What you done goofed? Thank you for the raid. What's the goof? Try to raid you, and I typed Ravier versus. Oh, okay. Gotcha. He messed it up. No worries, it's all good. People will find me eventually. So that's like the math, right? We have this AA. Yesterday we worked on an AABB visualizer. That's what you're seeing here with all this craziness, right? We have our you know, our point visualizer. We have our AABB, you know, visualizer, very similar to the one built in. And right, like, and that's the goal, right? And we have our curve visualizer. So if we look at our curve here in runtime, remote, check out our curve, right? So the curve has A1 and B1, and these are the controls, right? So like there's imagine two perfect lines, right, between A1 and B1, so that as I move, right, then these are always perfectly straight, right? So then this parable, or this Bezier curve, is kind of being controlled by like an inverted control point, right? So because we need these to be perfect, right? So there's one, the first control point will be the inversion, so here, and then the second control point for, say, like, you know, A1. So you see it's looking at it exactly perfect because the control node is here, right? So, but we just want to give it like a point, like 2 points, right? This is like the hangar, and this is the outside of the hangar, and this is where we start curving the route. Same thing on the end, right? So with all these tools, like the ability to visualize lines and points and use multi-meshes and rendering, and just having so much of it that, you know, your screen turns yellow, but we're still at 1200 FPS, so like this is all performant. And then another tool, you know, that I added yesterday after the stream is the this debug radius, which can be billboarded or non-billboarded. Right, so you know, if I just want to be like, I just visualize me a random radius, right? Then give me the radius, right, and just visualize it with scale so we can see, no matter the distance, right? It always must be rendered. Right, so that's like, yeah, because this is all for testing. Right, so we don't want to. So these are 1 unit length or 1 pixel width, regardless of, you know, because they're being rendered on the fly. Yeah, so those are the kind of the debugging things that I added yesterday. And just to see the fruits, Mark, of what I was working on earlier, like I took the entire project and kind of went through all of the interfaces and looked at all the couplings of like if I were to take a player and throw them in a world and have it work, what do we need for that? So, you know, we have like gravity areas, and that's a big aspect to how players are positioned, but they're kind of tied to stations, which are tied to ships, and which are tied to, so you kind of, you know, there's a whole hierarchy, right, of dependencies, and if they're using interfaces instead of direct references, then all I need to do is export only the interfaces, right? Only like a player, if they have a ship reference that they're piloting, they'd only need to use an iShip, which is more of an interface that defines, you know, like that ship's which only has what they need on them, and that way you don't need to kind of export the whole ship class or, you know, the station class or anything. It could just, you know, export the interfaces. So I realized there's a lot more coupling than I even cared to, just like a lot of stuff. So I ended up kind of cleaning up some of the main project code, and at the same time kind of made this. So this is just first person with all of the components, you know, that first person requires, with you know, the gravity. I don't know why. Hang on a second. Where were you? It's really funny because earlier. Oh wait, where are you? Why are you? Player? Was that the old running instance? Hang on a second. Weird. Do the black lip. Wee. But this was actually working a second ago when I was just playing with this. So now I'm kind of wondering if I accidentally have this open more than once. Thanks, Dick. Yeah, if you haven't seen the actual game, like, that's really weird. Yeah, maybe, let's see, the gravity area is fine. You are fine. Yeah, EVA is good. Hey, Spanky, how's it going? Something in the code is stopping them from being in gravity. Right, the highest priority gravity is the station. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's working now. You can see we're here in 0G. Going to bed, head to bed. See you, Rev. Have a good one, Krino. And thanks again, Mark. I'll give you a shout out here just in a second. Because we have a load of kick-ass animations from mocap online, which we're going to start kind of building into the FPS controller, but we're gonna do it here in the small FPS only project first. Because we're gonna take this project, we're gonna bring it to 4.6 beta, and then we're gonna start resetting up all the IK. Let me give you a shout out before you go. If you guys aren't following there, make sure to leave them a follow. So I'll for those that are new, like Dick and Spanky, you've probably seen this before, but I'll show you kind of like why we're creating these test projects. I think that gun in the background was a hoverboard. There's a bunch of interesting stuff here. So let's go into gravity testing. My game is like a light freelancer. Like think of like a Sea of Thieves in space. That kind of meets freelancer. Right, so we have NPCs, right, that are kind of going around a station, and they have their own life cycle. So like each of these NPCs, right, they have a name, a seed, or hunger, or thirst. So they're going to a bar, getting a drink, you know, getting some food, getting some water, right, going to the arcade. These will be actual like nodes with animations and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, when they're done, right, they're done their thing, the station manager will spawn a ship for them. Because everything in the game, right, is just moving cargo from A to B. Whether you're moving cargo or they're moving cargo, right? So we'll see the NPCs kind of like start queuing up to take off, and they're heading to the other station to, you know, buy and sell goods, or to pirate people, or to do some salvage, or to do some rescue. It all depends on what the NPC type is, right? So as they're doing their thing, you see the other NPCs over here. They got the same idea, right? They're done. They're spawning. And what we'll soon start seeing here is kind of NPCs kind of coming in and, you know, kind of doing their own thing. So if there's room for them on approach here, it's going to be a bit congested. We're going to see some fly-arounds. But everything is dynamic, right? They'll come in, they'll get a new free hangar. They'll come in, they'll land, and now our little NPC has transitioned from station to station. Right, he's going off to get a drink. Eventually, their goal is to go to a room and despawn. Right, they've done their thing. They've done their routes. They bought their goods. They sold their goods. Right, so eventually, like, you know, Camera here will go to bed and kind of despawn permanently. And you know, the life cycle of an NPC in the game is what I call 4 hops. Oh, that one kind of almost came in upside down. Right, and this is not how it'll be visually. This is just kind of the system all working and well in multiplayer, right? Because all of these are all entities, are all handled by the stations. The station manager or the star system handles all the ships or the ship variants of NPCs, and all of this has the continuously working multiplayer, right? Because it's a multiplayer game. Right, so we can let the simulation go, and they'll just do their thing. They'll just go from A to B, and that's kind of the deal. And if we do like a little single player test, just kind of show, you know, it's better when it's all in the background, you know, like you're experiencing it, you know, for the third person yourself. So, you know, here we are, you know, as a player, there's a giant asteroid field you can mine. We have all of our delivery missions, you know, you can go accept some missions with some credits, right? All of our NPCs are doing their thing. They're just going from waypoint to waypoint. You know, and the idea is you be buying cargo, you know, and putting it on your ship, you know. Lots of tests for things. Right, so whether it's like a a delivery mission, or we have to do like a pickup and a drop off. And all while we're doing all this, right, NPC ships are flying along, they're doing their thing. The whole universe is, being simulated here. We're making money. Okay, so this is one of the truck stops. Right, the hangars for doing all the repairs and things. And it's very slow because I have a million things running right now, but I have an entire asteroid fields with lighting. They give you that cool sense of, when you're in an asteroid belt and you're kind of scanning and looking for rocks and stuff that you want to blow up. Like these are destroyable, targetable, rocks that you can blow up. This ship doesn't have any weapons on it. Right, so you can pull off all the components and swap everything out. Lighting is really bad in the hangars because we're working on lighting in the hangars. And frame rate right now is terrible with the sheer amount of stuff that I'm kind of having this test scene. I've been just piling it all in this scene just for testing. I want to see how bad performance can be when you have like ridiculous amounts of multi-mission instances and just stuff that are just not fit. But everything needs to be fleshed out. Everything is art now. A lot of art. A lot of some more some final systems, some art, and we'll have a video game. Right, so you can do bounty missions, NPC missions, delivery missions. That'll be cool once all the lighting gets baked. This is all test. They're all test baked lighting. I'm playing around with like how lighting looks on the interior, how we can hide things, how we can create occlusion on glass. So like at a distance, you don't see anything in a station, but you can still see the station. Right, there's a lot of like experimental, making sure baked lighting like doesn't affect the exterior, but it does affect the interior. This is all just different experiments of different types of baked lighting for the habitation system. So this is where you go get your own little apartment to kind of decorate. It's your own little hotel room where you can go log off. It's also where the NPCs come from. I think the NPCs for the most part will like use the main floor because then the animation will be more simple, and then the players will have ones that are down on like the lower levels, which still need lighting and gliders and all that kind of stuff set up. But yeah, that's the that's the idea anyway. We're just buying and selling goods, making money, doing some piracy, and now we're just getting ready to kind of put it all together. Putting it all together part. That's now kind of. And the music you're hearing is the genre of music I actually want to have in the game. I want to have, if you look up like psychedelic space rock, right? This is more of a light kind of version, but there's a whole track of the stuff that I listen to, and I absolutely want it, like this to be the music, right? Something different, None of this, none of this orchestra stuff, like rock, instrumental space rock. Lots of nice guitar licks. Yeah, so that's the idea. And Sparky, did you want to test it? Somebody's spawn function. Musically adds to the environment. Yeah. Most of the guys like the TLDR is what I've been doing is funding everything on Patreon. So the sales pitch, although very 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 early, is $5 gives you access to the builds. Right, so $5, reserve your name, be a part of the process, and pretty much we do releases. A lot of the later releases have been more private, but every time there's a big major patch, I just do an update on Patreon. What are we testing? Like whether I'm adding rockets or mining or testing flight paths or whatever. It's very transparent development. I'm fairly easy to be accountable for, because it's just me. But we're not like super fast at development, but a lot of this stuff works. So that's like the idea. Can't wait to do some of the speeders and stuff with some of the art I made. This is like a '60s style, kind of a speeder bike. But We'll get back into more art streams at some point. This is back, NPC 0G. But it's so funny how like where we were in Godot versus where we are in Unity. Oh, I bet just started job recent, so I might be able to do that. Hell yeah! But either way, I still need some people to test, so it doesn't have to be like you don't need to subscribe. Right, you just need to be a member. Like you can join for free, right? You can join for free somewhere here. And what I've built is I built my own Delta Patcher. So check this out. I have my own Delta Patcher. I can log into the service. Right, I'm logged in. I can connect the Patreon. The Unforgiven Space client would like to have access. Right, this will check your status, but if I can manually I can override that, right? And then boom, you're logged in the Patreon. I can go to systems. This is the systems build. Run update. It'll automatically pull the latest build. So this is super easy. Boom, it's done. That's it. That's all there is to it. You just hit play. Right, and then we have the living service, so I can just literally connect. Go online and just uncheck local and join, and I'm in the universe. Well, I'm in the test universe. anybody can just like that. That's it. That's the whole thing, right? I have a full DevOps pipeline for all my deployments, so there's not much to do here other than talk to each other. We have chat, and all that stuff's all working, and all the systems are working, and you can do missions together, fly around. There should be there should be a station over here on a planet you can go down on. And all of this is just in this build, like the build that we're currently playing around with. Right? So you can spawn in all your ship components. I think some of the spawners need to be set up. Yeah, these are all working. Right, so if it crashes, it'll just restart the client, right? So so that's all there is to it, right? We need it for testing. And then live is a much bigger build. Live is like the main build, which is like, I don't know, like 15 gigs or something. And I don't think there's a live channel right now, so these are all like test channels for the branches. And that's it. You just gotta go pick, where you want to install the game and log out. Done. So that's kind of how the whole thing works. Makes it a lot easier, like because I can even update the launcher with the launcher, and eventually I want to do all my bug reporting through the launcher. So I want to do like a crash handler attached to the launcher. So when the game crashes, we'll take the whole Godot log and like pretty much anything like and just send it. But I need to get more people playing the game. There's a lot of stuff like here in so I use ClickUp for all the project management. And normally when I have a lot of people playing the game, and I say playing very loosely, but they're testing the systems out to to see where we are as far as it being a playable product, then like a lot of this stuff now is in QA and just need to be tested, right? So all this QA stuff here needs to get pushed into complete if we verify that it's working. And then of course right now I'm still working on chip cargo areas, and you can so on the just go to unforgivenspace.com. That'll bring you to the Discord. The launcher itself, I just manually distribute it. So I'll just send you a build. You just run the launcher, set the default path, and then Patreon itself is just patreon.com/unforgivenspace. Let me bring up my chat here. So like the unforgivenspace.com doesn't link to the website right now, it just links to the Discord. And the Patreon you just join for free. Because what we have is I have a universe server where I can it's currently just running on the company site, but like I can log into the universe server and connect my Patreon, and then this kind of links the accounts. And you can kind of like, there's not much here. This is very, very primitive, like back-end system. Did you build the launcher? Yep, I built the launcher. Everything here is built. The systems. I even check this one out. Do you have any resources for learning about building a launcher? Most of the stuff, like learn how to use rsync. Like I'm a C# dev, so I don't know what packages you have. Yeah, so I'm using. Is it a version of rsync.net? Right, because all you need to like do is kind of do diffs. Like as long as you can do a diff between your builds and you can keep a track of like all of your different builds. What's that? I've known you this long and I haven't like been in your Discord. I'm so sorry. So it's all good. No expectation. But that's all you're doing, right? You need to keep a running list of all builds, because right now everything is just incidental. I'm a whatever works dev, so I do a lot of like different work, but a launcher is a thing I've been thinking about. I think you need it. Like otherwise, you're gonna waste so much bandwidth, right? You're gonna waste the load. And there was one in Unity that I was using prior that I paid a bit of money for. It's like easy. I don't know what it was, but I'm like, I was like, we'll just build our own, built on top of rsync. Right, so then you have a binary delta between the different versions, and that's all you're pulling, right? You're just gonna go and read like what version, the client currently is, and then like what version you need, and if it's like 2 or 3 versions away, then you're just gonna pull down those 3 deltas and apply them, and then you're gonna check the hash of the final executable towards the one that you currently have, and then you're good. But I'll show you another interesting tool too. I mean, when it comes to building things, check this out. You guys might find this interesting. So this is Space Edit. It's funny how I come into a segment about rsync since I just set it up on my server. Yep, but it's rsync as a means of building a Delta patcher. So this is Space Edit, and this is something that I've been working on kind of for a bit. Just make sure we have multiple versions, but check this out. So this is a full editor made in Godot for Godot. And let me see if I can kind of separate this not natively. So here we have like all of our building blocks, right? We have space objects, we have some station modules, we have a nice little custom inspector. At a certain point, do you do a full build and reconcile all individual patches? Yeah, right now everything that I have is very experimental, right? The build is actually very light because I mostly test the systems build, and the systems build is only like 180 megabytes because there's no assets in the systems build, so I don't care. You know what I mean? But for the main build, which is like, I don't know, like 12.5 gigs or something with all of the final art assets, it becomes a bit more crazy. So check this out. This is a space edit. We can actually just edit things here live. I can go and add segments, and it just works. And I can add in a light, right? And we're just editing. We can save and we can load and and we can do some randomization. I got a scripting language here, which is not a real scripting language. It's not like Alexa. It's just a kind of a command queue, right? Like just like a level design scripting language. And so we built, we can go here, we can build up these little, modules, but that's boring. You know what I mean? Like what if we want to do this quicker? Well, we can just go online. So we can go online and host the session, right? And then I can go online over here, and then I can join. And oh look, there's Revere, and here's the server, and now we're both editing away. Right, and we can rotate, we can kind of select things, we can add in a bunch of different lights, we can kind of, this is very, very, very primitive system, but it enables me to build segments live, which is very important because there's a lot of things we need to, quickly whip up at some point. And I think this is kind of the best way to ultimately kind of get to, where I need to go. So as I'm adding all this crap, you see it all works. I can go finish off this wall and kind of build a bunch of pieces. So this is my little 2B editor, but it gets a little bit even more interesting as we can actually connect and log into the backend server. And then what I'm going to do is have it dynamically pull down the actual entities that you can place so they can all get synced up. So the idea is an artist can build a bunch of resources and commit them to an asset server, and then they can come down with the editor and kind of be able to be prototyped very rapidly. And eventually this might become player housing shit. It might become a tool in the game. It's definitely going to become some type of basic admin tool. I'm going to be able to just from the server log into the the world and just be able to kind of switch to a mode where I can inspect things and actually see where players are in stats and kind of be able to very quickly, diagnose, like systems. So this is some of the tooling that I've been working on. Just very basic, but I like the kind of the theme that I've been slowly developing, and it just needs like anything, like I'll probably improve it. I started learning how to use the Godot tree nodes, but yeah, and you can actually open up your own embedded 3D viewport, and you can create a room, in an isolated setting. Because the idea is Unforgiven spaces sections are 8x8x4, and what I want to be able to do is just be able to kind of randomly generate all of the different pieces, and then just be able to kind of place them. And I think that'd be cool. Right? So this is an offline. Everything in here is kind of offline. But then once you save the room out, you can place the whole room into the world. And then of course it'll be fully synchronized. It's just all metadata for the same assets that already exist. But anyway, I just figured I'd show that off for those that are interested. But yeah, you can go up and down. It's a full everything around it to a meter, system. It's meant to be simple, lots of bugs. Oh, is that from the synchronizer errors? It looks like loads of work to get to this point. So the game was being developed 3 years in Unity. And then after the 3-year mark in Unity, Unity kept doing Unity things, and we started looking into other ways of figuring out what we wanted to do, So everything that you're everything I've been showing you guys is not the main project. It's just systems, I decided when I moved over from Unity to not work in the main project anymore because it just took too long. Builds were too crazy. I'm loading it up now. It's going to take forever, and this is Godot. But it'll give you guys the idea of what the game will hopefully eventually look like. When I get it to this point. And I've been porting over all the new code. So originally, this was what the little truck stop stations look like. I really wanted to kind of create the feeling that when you're inside, you could look over and see the ship hovering and the volumetric lighting, and it would look cool, right? And it's all meant to be an 80s mall. So you have all the different stores have the little loading and unloading thing for individual items, just for, like the missions, right? Small missions that bring goods. But the whole station itself, you can unload, you can buy bulk, right? This is more like different missions that'll be in the bars and places where you go play some pool and just kind of chill out. Lots of little social things. Or you can go and buy some, equipment, and you actually can see what the actual components look like. A lot of these are actually fleshed out. And so this is kind of we'll hit play here, and I'll actually give you kind of a tour of how I envision things. All right, so this is what our actual person looks like. And the IK is jank. We're gonna fix the IK once 4.6 comes out, right? So the idea is you can put on all these components. Everything on the ship is physicalized, right? So just like SE in that regard, you pull off all the components, everything from the intake, fuel scope, full scoop, all the different coolers. When you put this thing up on a ramp, everything can be customized. Right, and this is what the graphics of the actual ship looks like. So mostly you just see me playing around with the gray box versions, right? But this is kind of what things actually look like. So here's a medical module I've been working on for one of the big stations. And every single one of these rooms, are fully like fleshed out, right? So depending on what type of big stations exist, there's different things. Like in this case, for like medical, you could rescue an NPC, throw them on a gurney, and kind of like bring them to one of these modules to kind of rescue them. Or if you were like if you're stranded NPCs, you can go and refuel them. If you have like a fueling ship, you can kind of do all these kind of little smaller meta games, right? We have our comm systems, so ships always need to be uplinked to them. Or your route calculations are very slow. And it's like everything. I only have like one of everything. I have a nice little HUD, but there's only one. It's got some very primitive data on it. Eventually I'll add in everything, all the different screens I need, but everything is just proof of concept. Just make it all once, get it all working. Get the routes working, get NPC stuff working. Let's see if there's should be an enemy over here we can target. I'm assuming that some of this stuff now is kind of broken from a lot of work that's been done since, and we haven't come back to touch it. Yeah. Yeah, probably none of this stuff is going to work right now, but that's fine. But like the idea is you'll be able to customize everything, right? All the different engines, components, the different variations. Yeah, these are none of my. But I like all these rooms. I like the kind of the visibility of all this stuff. I kind of like the feel of it, like where it is right now. Like some of the level design's good, and some of it is bad, but overall the sense of scale. Like I know when I detail a lot of these rings, and I kind of like put in a lot of the greebles, and wherever you are, and you're looking up into the other areas, or you're like in the station looking up at like other aspects of it. So you're like at the truck stop, and you're looking up at like the upper arms and stuff, because there's like many on the V2 station. So this is kind of like where I'm trying to get them to, right? This kind of fully dynamic modular systems. But my goal for like this year, I mean, it's been playable off and on, just in very small gray box, like test environments, and I really want to flesh it out now, right? But it requires a lot of art. But that's the game. It's 12 o'clock. I'm probably going to get ready to raid someone. Finish now that we have the FPS project cleaned up. I think we're in a good spot. And now it's just yeah, it's good. Thanks for you guys feel free to join the Discord. Like I said, just unforgivenspace.com. If you have any ideas, and things like yeah, there's a lot in the pipeline anyway. It's just now it's just putting it together. I can't wait for the NPCs to have full like a autonomy. Executions are, but yeah, it's always it's always the thing. But I have an idea in my head of where I want it to be, right? Like even spatially, like this is going to play just like Merchant Alliance Quest and Sea of Thieves, right? The time frame is like Sea of Thieves. The number of players on an instance, same as Sea of Thieves, aiming for 24 or 32 players maximum, right, per system instance. And the number of stations that you're kind of flying around per star system be very similar to the islands in Sea of Thieves as far as time, right? Time from going from A to B. I don't want to spend. I don't want the player having to do a lot of traversal. Like I know even in Star Citizen, like getting off planet and like leaving and going. Like I just want you to jump into a hangar, jump into your ship, do some piracy. Experience a more basic game, like more of a like just a freelancer or Starlancer, only in a first-person experience, right? So just doing smuggling, some bootlegging, right? Avoiding getting caught. I think it'd be fun. It's been fun in testing so far. It's just I wish I could get it to where my brain sees it. That's the annoying part, is knowing in your head how you want it and seeing it, but artistically not being able to kind of get there yet. They've come a long ways. So with that, I'm gonna end it here on YouTube. I'm also on YouTube. I'm trying to get the YouTube viewership up, but it's just at Revere, same name, on YouTube. If you guys are interested in following the YouTube channel, I do want to do some tutorials and multiplayer stuff and dissect a lot of this. I keep saying I'm going to do devlogs, and I never do devlogs, and never have time to do them, but maybe eventually I'll get an editor or something and kind of dissect some of this stuff down. Had I been doing a devlog the entire time, I think the project would have had a bit of momentum, but, especially when certain times, like certain aspects of development seem kind of vague, because like a lot of the stuff now I've simplified for this particular sprint of testing, where all I care about is NPCs going from node to node and stuff like that. I don't care about like how things look and whatnot. It's just basic.